And this next question is for each of our candidates. We hear all the time from our viewers who are concerned that the city spends hundreds of millions of dollars on homelessness, and yet they still see a problem. At the end of your term, what would success look like? Ms. Llanes Pulido, we'll start with you.
It would look like more money at the point of prevention before people end up on the streets, especially because after those first 30 days, someone is much more likely within those first 30 days not to become chronically homeless. It would look like less spending to private companies without accountability of where that money is going. It would look more like direct services and funds that keep people off of the street. And it would look like much more care to preserve and produce truly affordable multi-bedroom housing. This is a problem that the entire country is facing. It's not just Austin. But an important thing to know about that number is that the proportion of children under 18 has grown tremendously over the last 3 years. And that does correspond to a loss of multi-bedroom affordable units in Austin, which are not being produced by the current policies. And that waiting list is getting longer and longer. We would see a shorter waiting list and more direct services, and our frontline workers would be less burnt out.
Ms. Tovo, same question to you on what would success look like in handling the homeless issue?
Yeah, success for this community would mean that we have effectively ended homelessness and made it brief, rare, and non-reoccurring, so that when folks are housed, they are able to stay in that housing. Austin's housing providers have a very high success rate of keeping folks in their housing once they are housed, but we have simply lacked the kinds of resources across the spectrum, again, to provide those permanent housing solutions, which is one reason why the diversion of the funding away from the permanent supportive housing to the marshalling yard caused some concerns. Not that we don't need emergency shelter, but this was a very costly solution, a very temporary solution, without a more comprehensive plan. The taxpayers have a right to ask questions. We need to be investing their dollars wisely. We need to make sure that the outcomes are what we anticipated, and we need to move forward with a comprehensive way and in a planned and deliberate way, not responding in a way that's not in accordance with really the other needs of the system.
And Mr. Watson.
Sure. We would have the continuum built out, and we would everything from prevention. We would know what our system was set up to do with regard to prevention. One of the reasons we created a standalone strategy office for homelessness was so that we could look at how you build out that continuum from prevention to emergency shelter, to rapid rehousing throughout the process, so that at different points for different people with different needs, you can help them out of homelessness in a faster way. The other part about that we've not talked about is that we need to have, as part of that continuum, a greater focus on brain health, on mental health. We need to be doing more in this community with regard to mental health, so that we are not having folks that are in crisis and then immediately put back out on the street or hopping from couch to couch until they end up on the street. That is, in this term, we would need to make sure that that's also built out.
Mr. Bowen, what would success against homelessness look like for you?
No one living in the green belts. Nobody in there causing environmental issues. Having a risk of a fire that could wipe out people that are just totally innocent of this, homeowners, renters, whatever the case is. Success for me would be if you could get those out of that environment and then into some type of housing to where they're not having to live in the woods. That would be, I think that would be just a great step, but it all has to be a process, and you're going to have to start making people be a little more responsible and just having to have some tough love and just say, you cannot be here. This is not good for you. It's not good for everybody else. So you'd have to have those programs. Again, the other ones, community, for the mobile loaves and fishes, those type of things that are out there and are working, and concentrating and finding out what's not working with the other ones, the other type of systems that are just not working at all.
Mr. Greco, we'll end with you.
Sure. Ending homelessness. I agree with Councilmember Tovo. I am used to solving big community problems. 200 million permanent supportive housing, city and county level. My organization built the political will. I led the organizing coalition to kill the state's largest corporate tax giveaway program. Took $1 billion a year, in potential school funding, gave it to oil and gas companies. I would bring the same focus and attention to this problem. When I visited Community First, I asked the tour guide, what's the biggest reason folks leave here? And he said, well, it's when they pass away, because folks don't leave. Okay? So we need to continue to invest in permanent housing, temporary shelters, overnight shelters. My big problem with this conversation is we are not recognizing that, again, over the last 20 years, this problem has increased, and we've become a city for millionaires. And I think that the mayor bears as much responsibility or more than anybody as an elected official running for his 8th time in 27 years.
Mayor, you can respond.
Austin's homelessness problem went to scale. When I was mayor the first time, we created the first resource center for the homeless. We created the downtown Austin Community Court, which was the first in the state of Texas to help people get into services. It was the first time we put money into a women and children's shelter. And now what we're doing is fixing a broken system. I mean, people can judge for themselves whether it was broken 2 years ago or not. We're now fixing that system, working even with the state of Texas to get money from the state to do that. So we're making big progress. We just need to get further along.